Hello world, good day and good game. Today we will look a little bit into the Stormhanger and we will also look at some details about the Onslaught mode. First let's start with Stormhanger. As you can clearly see, skill descendants are your friend. Especially the toxic descendants, because his toxic resistance before was 545, that was nothing back then when we first had him, and now it's only 250,000 almost. That is nothing. Next up would be chill descendants with only 1.3 million resistance or non-attribute. I remember that Nell was also quite good against the Stormhanger. So if you want to solo him, then choose something toxic, take someone with chill or one of the non-attribute dudes. And when you do it in a team, then obviously Luna and 3 Freyners is the best choice. But this here is the challenge board. On the normal board you find Ajax and Freyners, but also Luna and Freyners. When you want to solo him just to farm the vouchers, and look at that, Khulan, Harris, Ultimate Freyner and Daya are sure the best ones for it. Blair can work too, but I think you're better off with Glay or some Ultimate Viesa there. But now let's have a look at Onslaught and the things I found out so far, but it's only a demo, so I'm focusing on the things that are interesting right now. Maybe in some other video I go deeper down the rabbit hole. I tell you in the end how big this rabbit hole is. There is a lot. When you already played Onslaught, then you also know that the enemies are vulnerable to chill, but that is not always the case. Of course here the simple enemies, the small enemies like the follower, halflings, bomber and so on, they all have a gap in the chill resistance. While the fire resistance for weapons is 1.6 million, the chill resistance for weapons is only 1 million. For skills it's 872,000, but for chill it's only 581,000. Same for the bosses, they also have less chill resistance compared to any other resistance, and they also have some critical hit resistance. But there's also something interesting about this, which is the first rabbit hole. They seem to have some penetration. They are penetrating your defense too. So when they penetrate your resistance, then that would mean that taking less damage, flat damage reduction, those are the ways how you sustain more in Onslaught. So when we look at the inversion reinforcement in the game, then there is one node, so that would be 11.5% less damage taken. That is something that the enemy cannot penetrate. Also good to sustain more over the fight is maybe the selective cellular stimulation, and as the fight is taking very long, I think I will go with some less skill costs there. That is some defensive setup here. You usually see other setups that go more into damage, but if you are having trouble to survive this, then go into this direction here. When you look into the modules, there are also modules that have flat damage reduction. Search for incoming here. The best for Onslaught is maybe this little thing here. The incoming damage goes down by 13.5%. Or you are someone like Glay or Daya, then this here is for you. Less MP, doesn't matter, and 30.5% less incoming damage. Even if the enemy has good non-attribute defense, Valby is quite an option when you want to sustain a lot of damage. Ajax of course too. He also could cover the turrets with his big shields, that is also a nice thing. Or the whole team. You need to defend anyway, so why moving around when the enemy is coming to you, right? One of the bigger problems in Onslaught are the Tyrants. The Tyrants can be really nasty and they spawn. There can be 2 or 3 of them. And the thing with Tyrants is they don't have a vulnerability. So it doesn't really matter which element you take. If you are having really big trouble killing the Tyrants and the Tyrants are quite nasty for you, then switch to some other descendant, because the Tyrants have the same resistance for everything. And as you can see down here, the Tyrants have a little bit of HP recovery, which is really nasty. So maybe someone in your team is Lepic or someone else to reduce that HP recovery. It ain't much, but it's an HP recovery that they have during combat, not out of combat. They have it the whole time long. And as you see, fire descendants are the only ones that you may not want to see in an Onslaught. But even then, when you fought the Colossus once, then it's a joke, right? Pretty fast done. So to sum this up, chill is still the best one in it. Fire is something that you don't want to see against the Colossus, and between all those numbers that I showed you, there's one thing we need to talk about. All the numbers that I've shown you, the HP and the resistances and so on, those are the base numbers. The enemies can get buffed over and over again. There are buffs available to them, but it's not sure if those buffs are even used. What we see is that in stage 2 and stage 3 the enemy has more HP, something like 6 times the HP, which is crazy. There are several buffs, and all those buffs depend on which stage you are in, how many players are there, which enemy type, and so many variables. If you want to go down that rabbit hole with me, then you can join my stream and then we can talk about if those buffs are even applied. The only buffs that we see are those in the stages. Like for example, on stage 3 a Tyrant with 4 players gets 7 times the HP or 8 times the HP and some multi-hit damage resistance suddenly. But then there are also buffs like 40% increased shield, and at that point I stopped looking into it because no enemy has shield. Enemies in Onslaught sometimes receive a defensive layer which looks like shield, but it's not actually shields. So I hope this little insight helps you dealing with the Onslaught mode. Don't forget, a lot of stuff will surely change over the next days, and when it's finally released, doing the first stage solo with Dire is absolutely no problem. You are pushing the enemies around and the turrets are just dealing with them. That's super easy. But on stage 3 you need a good team, and as you've seen, mostly chill can be good, but in the end against the Tyrants doesn't really matter. And a perfect team for this could be a Dire, some Serena, a Lepic to turn off the HP reduction, and maybe some Glay. And special note to the Serena then, you are also the healer, so go down on the ground at some point and heal the people please. Let me know what your favorite team is, how you would set up the team and Dire and so on. Until then, have fun in Onslaught. Good game, goodbye.